Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor. Let's be real here. Why does one use a pseudonym? Why does one use a fake name when doing business or engaging in other activities, right? Well, I mean, we could ask Carlos Danger, perhaps, or Pierre Delecto, but actually you could ask me. When I first started my career, I was still working in the professional world. I didn't want people to know some of the things that I was blogging about and professing and writing about. So I used the name Stage Right. Get it? I was in the theater business. I was a conservative. I didn't want people to know who I was when I was writing the things that I was writing. And now we learn that then Vice President Joe Biden was using the pseudonym Robert L. Peters. Why? Why would he want to cover up his name? We asked two congressmen about this on last night's program, and both of them said only bad reasons, only to cover up nefarious things so that other people can't see what you're doing. And this should march us closer to impeachment. So imagine our surprise as we monitored the media coverage of this blockbuster development in the Biden crimes, and we found that they'd ignored it. They didn't see a story here. That's why you come to us, and that's why we go to Josh Hammer, opinion editor at Newsweek. Josh, I want to start with the media because it's shocking to me that they're just looking the other way. This is an obvious smoking gun piece of evidence, especially considering the emails where Mr. Peters' name appears.
It's explosive stuff. I mean, it's severely explosive stuff. I mean, if James Comer can actually get to the bottom of this, I mean, if those documents see the light of day, this strikes me about as clear a case for filing articles of impeachment as we have seen thus far. You know, Larry, it's funny because it was only earlier this week, I think, that Congressman Connolly from there in Northern Virginia was saying that, Republicans still don't have any kind of smoking gun explosive evidence connecting Joe Biden to his son's misdeeds. I mean, the goalposts just keep on shifting and shifting and shifting. I mean, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House spokesperson, and they're talking points for months and months where Joe Biden didn't know anything about it. He had nothing to do with anything his son was doing. And then it was, he was kind of on the phone call on speakerphone, but just as kind of a show of strength to try to intimidate or cow Hunter Biden's nefarious corollaries or colleagues in Romania, or trying to kind of get them to kowtow to his will, to his submission. And now it appears it's actually even worse than that he was using pseudonyms to be on. So it just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. This is an unambiguously big deal. And I do hope that Congressman Comer and the Oversight Committee gets to the bottom of it.
Let's face it, if as a result of a FOIA request, there was an email that was discovered showing Vice President Biden's name and his son Hunter Biden's name on an email pertaining to the Prime Minister of Ukraine or the President of Ukraine, either a face-to-face meeting or a telephone call, that would be a blockbuster smoking gun. We have those emails. The difference is instead of Joe Biden's name, it says Robert L. Peters, which is the name he used so it wouldn't show up on those FOIA requests. That makes it even more evidence of wrongdoing, Josh.
Right. I mean, so often, Larry, as the case may be, it's kind of an old expression at this point, but it happens to have more than a kernel of truth to it. It oftentimes is the cover-up that is even worse than the crime. And in this case, the crime actually happens to be very bad, actually, which is kind of selling out your vice presidential power via your wayward crack addict, hopelessly prodigal presidential son, Hunter Biden. So the crime actually happens to be quite bad, but the cover-up perhaps is arguably even worse because, as you said, there was just no reason. There was literally no reason to use a pseudonym, Ralph Peters. I'm kind of curious now what the origin of the name Ralph Peters is. I mean, how Biden or Dr. Jill or anyone in the Biden camp, the Biden inner circle, managed to come up with his name. I'm kind of curious. But there's just no reason to do it other than to do exactly what you said, which is to evade FOIA. So they're clearly trying to get around the law here. I mean, he was the sitting vice president of the United States, if I'm not mistaken, when these emails and stuff were sent. I mean, bad stuff.
This is an Obama administration scandal. What did Barack Obama know about his vice president's dealings and whether his vice president was using a fake name on official emails or not? I'd like to know if Barack Obama knew and when he knew it. And Josh Hammer, furthering the speculation about the origins of the name, I don't want to get too tawdry here, but I recall some emails on Hunter Biden's laptop that jokingly, I think, referred to his father as Pedo Pete. Seems to be a dot that could be connected there.
Wow. Yeah. No. I mean, I honestly had forgotten that detail from the Hunter Biden laptop saga. That's. I
don't blame you for blocking some of that material out. Actually, so, listen. I mentioned that I spoke with two congressmen yesterday. Both of them said it's past time for impeachment proceedings. Earlier in the week, I heard on Capitol Hill that there were about 40 Republican holdouts. This is even after the transparent and cynical move of Merrick Garland to appoint David Weiss as the special counsel. Now that we've learned this, that number has to have shrunk. And is it time for Republican leadership to stop tweeting about this and actually do something?
Yeah, I think it basically is that time. I've been saying that for a while now. Look, I mean, Congress ultimately only has so many tools in a situation like this. You can use your subpoena power. You can use your defund power as well, which, by the way, is a tool that House Republicans in general, Larry, seem to have forgotten to use. You know, if House Republicans were to try to defund special counsel Jack Smith's entire charade, for example, they have that power within their constitutional authority. So the power of the purse, including a situation like this, could possibly be used as well. But the ultimate power that Congress has in our Constitution to check a wayward president, a wayward executive branch, a situation like this, is absolutely filing articles of impeachment. You know, Kevin McCarthy, who I've been somewhat skeptical of at times, to his credit, I mean, he's basically there, if I'm not mistaken. So they've got to get the numbers in line there. They have a very, very narrow margin. Obviously, they basically can't lose anyone. I would be surprised if that number, that 40 number of holdouts, has collapsed to 1 or 2 because of this. But it really should be. I mean, I'm on board personally.
Back to the media, the questions that are obvious to be asked to Karine Jean-Pierre. Is it true that the president used a pseudonym when he was vice president? Why did he do that? Why does it appear on these emails with his son and his son's business partners? Are there any innocent responses? Are there any reasonable responses to those questions?
I mean, not that I'm aware of, right? I mean, he's the vice president of the United States using a fake name on very sensitive email. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not like it was wedding plans and yoga appointments or anything like that.
Right. I mean, he's not tweeting. He's not trying to be surreptitious. He wasn't like you, stage right, working for a theater company, trying to kind of have his clandestine opinions. I mean, he's the vice president of the United States. He's one of the most important men in the world. You shouldn't be shying away from your name. I mean, when I saw this come across the transom yesterday, I mean, my eyes like, wow. I mean, you know, Carlos Danger, you mentioned there, Larry, earlier. Carlos Danger was also the very first thing that came to mind for me. There is no good down that path. That is not a primrose path towards glory. It is a path towards perdition, and I think House Republicans should follow it as far as it goes.
Which, by the way, leads us in our final minute here to other Democrats in this town, other Democrats who would like to have a political future. They don't like having to answer these questions, and clearly they're going to have to come up with something. They can't just keep trotting out Representative Dan Goldman. At what point is there pressure on Biden from these other Democrats? At what point does one of these Democrats actually throw him under?
So this is a great question. I think back in January, my read on Biden's own classified document scandal, which the entire media apparatus seems to have forgotten, by the way. But, you know, we had that whole thing that the Chinese Communist Party funded Penn Biden Center for Global Diplomacy, you know, the Corvette garage in Wilmington. My read on the timing of all of that was that there actually probably were some DOJ deep state actors who were trying to get Joe Biden to bow out in anticipation of his announcing for re-election in 2024. But then he went ahead and actually did that in 2024. And, you know, for all the chatter that RFK Jr. makes in conservative media circles, he's polling consistently in like the 13 to 18% range. So as of now, I still see Joe Biden as being the nominee unless the guy literally dies, something like that. But I could be wrong. I mean, these scandals, they keep on adding up.
They do. They add up. And with any other politician, certainly with an R after their name, it would be over. Josh Hammer, Newsweek, thanks for joining us. There's more to come on O'Connor tonight. Keep it here on Salem News Channel.